Truffles are like nature's little treasure chest. Tiny fungi that resemble small potatoes but can cost more than gold. While over 100 types of truffles have been discovered worldwide, only a few are fit for eating. So most people just divide them into two main categories, black and white. Truffles aren't exactly attention-seeking. They don't need sunlight or oxygen to grow. But when it comes to their home, they're incredibly picky. They want a climate that's just right, a place with distinct seasons where winters aren't too chilly, springs are warm and moist, summers are wet enough, and autumns stay frost-free. When I think about it, the land truffles call home is often way more fertile than the places many of us humans live. The truffle's most important relationship? Its love affair with trees. In Europe, truffles often hang out with poplar and chestnut trees, while in Asia they prefer to buddy up with pine and oak. Once a truffle picks its tree partner, it's like it's in it for life. No other plant is welcome in its territory. That's why truffles tend to grow in wide open spaces, where there's hardly any shrubbery. Even in carefully cultivated forests, truffles give them the cold shoulder, sticking only to true, untouched wilderness. Now, a lot of people still think all truffles are wild, but that's not true. Cultivated black truffles have been slowly making their way out of Australia since the 1980s. The process is tricky though, with a low success rate for the fungal infection and a long wait for the truffle to fully mature. So even the ones grown on farms aren't exactly cheap. What drives the price of truffles? There are three key factors: variety, size, and maturity. The best quality truffles can cost a fortune, which is why some companies use synthetic chemicals to mimic the truffle's signature aroma and slash costs. Sadly, this fake smell has become the first impression many people have of truffles. Definitely not the natural, earthy fragrance I'd expect from such a luxurious treat. The real magic of a mature truffle is in its scent. Imagine something like the smell of a male pig's saliva. It may sound strange, but that's actually the truffle's secret weapon. That funky aroma is designed to lure animals in, and as they munch on the truffle, they help spread its spores far and wide. Truffles grow through a network of mycelium beneath the soil. This mycelium forms a symbiotic relationship with tree roots, providing them with water and minerals, while the tree in return sends sugars to the truffle. It's a perfect example of nature's teamwork, and the connection between them is made through something called mycorrhiza. Think of truffle's mycelium like the roots, stems, and leaves of a plant. It's the system that moves nutrients around. The truffle itself is like the fruit of the fungus, just waiting to ripen. When it's ready, it decays and releases spores, which grow into new mycelium. These new threads then team up with more tree roots, keeping the truffle's cycle going. It's a wild, amazing partnership that's all about survival. When I went up the mountain to hunt for truffles, I quickly discovered just how tricky it can be. You see, with our human noses being way less sensitive than those of animals, trying to track down truffles in a thick forest is like searching for a needle in a haystack. For example, even if I'm standing right next to a perfectly ripe truffle with a strong, delicious aroma wafting through the air, the chances of me actually smelling it with my human nose are next to nothing. We just don't have the same nose for these things that animals do. And that's why it's so helpful to have a furry friend by your side. I've heard that in Europe, there's a tiny fly that loves to lay its eggs in the soil right above truffles, but they are so small, I never spot them. Other animals like squirrels, wild boars, rabbits, and pheasants are natural truffle hunters. They can sniff them out with ease. But the trouble is, these animals aren't exactly trainable. For centuries, people have used pigs to find truffles, but the problem with pigs is that once they find one, they eat it straight away. So pigs became less popular over time. Today, the real truffle hunting champs are trained dogs, especially shepherd dogs and mixed breeds. With a bit of training, dogs are the best partners for any truffle hunter. But what if you don't have any trusty dog? Sure, you can still give it a go. It won't be easy, but here's the trick. First, try to find where truffles have been spotted in previous years. This will help you narrow down your search area. Once you are there, crouch down. Grab a small tool and gently clear away the leaves on the soil surface. Start your search with patience. When you find one, take a moment to smell the soil around it. Is it giving off a strong scent? Is it big enough to be ripe? This process is a dialogue with nature and a conversation with your own desires. If the truffle has already pushed up some soil and is partially visible, lucky you, just pick it up. But if it's still buried deep, use your hands or a small tool to carefully dig it out. Be gentle with the surrounding environment. Don't forget to cover the soil back afterward. Now, if you come across a truffle that's deep in the ground and not fully ripe yet, don't bother. It won't have much of a scent and definitely won't be worth digging up. It's all about finding the sweet spot, knowing when to dig and when to leave it to grow. Happy hunting! Wild truffles in Europe mainly grow in France, Spain, and Italy. People have been enjoying these little gems since the time of the Romans. But back then, European cooking was all about bold, overpowering flavors. Think fermented fish sauce and pepper. So, the mystic aroma of truffles was completely drowned out. In fact, they were treated much like potatoes. Just another ingredient, nothing special. But then, something magical happened in the 16th century. French cuisine started to shift toward fresher ingredients and simpler flavors. And suddenly, truffle's unique aroma finally got the recognition it deserved. But even with all their newfound fame, the truffle's journey wasn't always smooth sailing. To ensure a steady supply of wild truffles, people had to carefully tend to the trees and grasslands, constantly enriching the soil with organic matter. Then came the 20th century, with 2 world wars shaking things up, as rural population shrank and cities boomed thanks to the Industrial Revolution. The countryside was left to wither. And just like that, truffle production took a major nosedive. It was a tough time for the truffle, but even in those dark days, its allure never quite faded. The biggest hurdle European truffles are facing right now is climate change. Frequent droughts and low rainfall are making it harder for truffles to thrive. But that's not all. Regulation in places like Italy has stepped in to help. Back in 1985, Italy passed a law to stop people from using pigs for truffle hunting in certain situations, to keep those pigs from tearing up the soil and damaging the environment. Truffle hunters also need a special license now, and they are only allowed to use trained dogs and small tools for the job. No giant machinery allowed. Over the years, the entire truffle community, from hunters to restaurants to consumers, have come together to agree on sustainable standards. And as a result, the industry has become pretty well regulated. This is why Western truffles dominate the global market in terms of quality, industry standards, and brand value. But while Europe's truffles are living the good life, those on the other side of the world are facing a whole different set of challenges. Hey guys, making this show is a lot of hard work, but your support makes it all worth it. Before we dive in, could I ask you a quick favor? If you enjoy the show and want to help out, please hit that subscribe button. And I promise to keep making each episode better and bring you the content you crave. Thank you. Truffles in Asia are mainly found in China, and the real hotspot is Yunnan province. For the past 30 years, Yunnan has been the world's truffle capital, producing over 80% of all black truffles. So, if we are talking about truffles in Asia, we've got to start with Yunnan. These truffles thrive in the northern parts of Yunnan and the southern parts of Sichuan, nestled in the pine forests of the southeastern Himalayas, between 2,000 and 3,000 meters above sea level. Now, here's the funny part. Back in the day, locals didn't have the faintest idea about cooking with truffles. They just knew that pigs love the smell. In fact, they would often feed truffles to their pigs. That's how Yunnan truffles got the nickname pig-brooding fungi. It wasn't until China opened up to the West after 1978 that Western culinary knowledge about truffles started filtering in. That's when people started to see truffles in a whole new light. And here's the kicker. Some of Yunnan's mature truffles are just as good, or sometimes even better, than the famous European ones. Seriously, some of them have a more intense aroma than the European summer truffles. Plus, since Yunnan truffles are way cheaper, some sneaky European restaurants have been mixing them with their own truffles to save a little cash. It's a bit of a well-kept secret in the industry. To really get a feel for how the locals find and harvest truffles, I decided to reach out to Long, a mountain man in the area, to see his methods firsthand. What happened next was troubling, to say the least. After spending the whole day observing, I came to realize that China's wild truffles are facing two major challenges right now. First, people start digging for truffles long before they're ready. Many of the truffles from Yunnan are dug up before they even develop any smell, and sold off before they've had a chance to mature properly.
8、9月份就开始了。
那么早，那就又小又不熟。
对，所以那个价格就很不理想。对，
反正那个时候会不会挖的更多呀？
那个时候肯定是挖的更多啊。
现在落潮了嘛，对吧？
现在已经挖了几次了。
Second, the locals often use big, clunky tools like hoes and shovels, digging roughly through the soil. This can totally wreck the entire ecosystem. If the topsoil is damaged this much, the truffles might not even grow back the next year. After talking with a bunch of people involved in the industry and reflecting on my own observations, I realized there are 4 main reasons behind these problems. First, most of the truffle hunters don't have a clue how truffles grow in symbiosis with tree roots through their mycelium. Believe it or not, many still think that digging for truffles is like loosening the soil before planting crops, helping them grow better. They also don't have the proper tools, or trained dogs for that matter, to track down truffles. Instead, they rely on brute strength and, well, a lot of luck. And perhaps the biggest issue of all is that they don't truly understand that the real value of truffles is in their fragrance, which only develops when they are fully mature. For many villagers, it's all about if I don't grab them now, someone else will. So, they dig up truffles that are still unripe. By the time the truffles are actually in season, there's nothing left to harvest.
它挺大的，它前段时间还不熟的时候多是多，但是它那个价格方面的话，那个时候才是100多1公斤的。但是现在你看已经成熟了，现在就到300多了。最后到2月份那段时间是到了500、600一公斤。
Second, most of the local vendors don't know the difference between truffle species.
这个松露这边你们现在有没有知道说它是分不同的品种的？
你看这个公的嘛，它比较圆润，比较圆，然后它这个 比较粗糙，它这个表皮，然后母的话，它这个表皮比较细，还中间还有个洞。
They are often mistakenly referred to the common black truffles from Yunnan as male and female. When they sell them, there's no real standard for size or maturity. It's like buying potatoes by the bag with no careful quality. The only people who are beginning to make basic distinctions between truffles are a few middlemen in wholesale markets. But even then, they mostly just differentiate by color. Things like specific species, shape, and preservation standards are still in their infancy. Third, for most consumers in China, truffles are still only seen as a trendy luxury. They are more about status of having them than understanding how to properly appreciate them. Most people don't even know that the true value of truffles lies in their aroma. So, a lot of people buy immature truffles out of curiosity, without knowing that they are not even close to ripe. And when they cook them, they treat them like any other mushroom, sauteing them with chili and garlic over a blazing hot pan. Some even believe truffles have aphrodisiac powers and use them to make liquor.
炒的话也就切片，干辣椒，泡点盐就可以。
牛排煎了，牛排不是有腌制过的吗？
对对对。
牛排煎了以后，然后这个煎好，放在上面，黑胡椒一浇上去，很好吃的。
These cooking methods destroy the delicate flavors of the truffle, which is a huge waste. Right now, China's market isn't really guiding farmers toward harvesting truffles when they are at their peak. Fourth, the government has no clear guidelines for wild truffle harvesting. The local government in Yunnan has been propagating for a big push in the mushroom industry for years. But they still haven't fully recognized the damage being done to the truffle's natural habitat.
什么时候开始又有新鲜的呢？8月份才开始有。
对
，8月份的时候挖出来也是这种样子的。
挖出来也是皮色是这样，但是里面它没黑。
没黑哈。
对。
那没黑就什么意思呢？
就是没成熟嘛。
就还没熟。
对对对对。
On top of that, while artificial truffle farming has been booming in places like Australia and New Zealand, it hasn't gained traction in China. Farmers don't know how to grow truffles themselves, and they continue to dig up wild ones, damaging the environment even more. There are some attempts at artificial truffle cultivation in Yunnan back in 2008, but when I asked Long and several middlemen about it, they were adamant that truffles couldn't be farmed, and had zero knowledge that it was already happening on a large scale elsewhere. If this keeps up, the future of the Yunnan truffle industry looks bleak. The truffles will keep getting harvested too early, which will damage their reputation in international markets. And at the same time, the environment will keep deteriorating, making it even harder to find truffles in the future. A massive drop in production is probably just around the corner. The deeper I delved into the world of truffles, the more it felt like we were bonding. Each harvest, each cooking experiment, and every bite seemed to teach me something new. How to respect them, savor them, and most importantly, enjoy them in moderation. But let's put the philosophy aside for a moment and get down to the good stuff, the practical tips. When I'm picking out a truffle, there are 3 golden rules I keep in mind. First, touch. I want that truffle to be firm, not squishy. If it feels soft when I squeeze it, it's probably either turning into a science experiment, or worse, has bugs living in it. Second, sight. A truffle's maturity is like its calling card. The riper it is, the more defined the pattern of its aroma glands will be when I cut it open. And last but definitely not the least, smell. The stronger the aroma, the better the truffle. Generally speaking, truffles picked in January and February are the smelliest. And I mean that in the best way possible. Fresh truffles don't have a long shelf life, maybe 2 weeks at most. White truffles are even more delicate. But here's a hack. Store them in an airtight container with some kitchen paper and keep them in a fridge on 6 degrees Celsius. Some people swear by storing them with rice, but honestly, that's not ideal. The rice tends to absorb both the truffle scent and moisture. Definitely a bit of a waste. So if you've got fresh truffles, don't wait too long to dive in. For the more adventurous, why not transform those truffles into something even more magical? You could make truffle salt or truffle oil, but it's not just a random project. You'll need a little skill and some time. And if you have an epic truffle haul this season, freezing and canning also sound reasonable. That way, you can enjoy your truffles long after the season ends. When it comes to cleaning truffles, don't go scrubbing them like they are a potato. You'll ruin that precious skin. Instead, let them soak in water for a few minutes to loosen the dirt, and then use a soft brush to gently clean them under running water. Simple and effective. Now, when cooking fresh truffles, that's where I let my imagination run wild. But remember, truffles are fragile. Don't throw them into a hot pan, where their delicate fragrance will vanish in a puff of steam. And keep those heavy-handed spices away. Truffles are all about that subtle, earthy aroma. And today, I'm making one of the most popular snacks at my restaurant, truffle potato chips.